going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review, and this is our twice-a-weekly show where we review the Magic stories. And this time we are back with our second-to-last review for Phyrexia All Will Be One. And because we have finished all the main stories, it only leaves side stories. So we are here for the Phyrexia All Will Be One side story 4 of 5. As I always say, they're not really numbered, but in the order that they were released. A Man of Parts by Reinhard Suarez. My quick review at the top of this one is, I thought this was good. I think that it starts a little slow, in my opinion, but it definitely picks up towards the end. And I think that going forward, this is a really important story. I don't necessarily think that it's important for Phyrexia All Will Be One necessarily, right? For you to understand what's going on here. But going forward, this is a very important story, and hopefully will have wider implications in the next few years of stories. But obviously we'll have to see on that. But for that reason, I still recommend that you read it. I think it's worth it.
I think it's worth it too. I think it fills in a lot of holes that have been sprinkled throughout the story for a number of years at this point.
Interesting.
It kind of plugs them all up. You know, like, oh wait, there's one over here. You know, plug that one up.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's, you know, like a desperation move or like just this was always how it was and they had to wait until now to explain that. So, but either way, it fills in those little gaps that you didn't really need filled in at this point, but it's nice to have them filled in.
Okay. Fair enough. So if that makes the story sound interesting to you and you either have not gotten a chance to read it yet or just want to remind yourself of it, the top link in the description down below will take you to the story. You don't have to go searching for it. We try to remove as many barriers as possible so that you can go and check it out for yourselves if you would like, because we would love it then if you would continue to join us or come back and join us here for a full discussion, because that's what the show is. It's a discussion. We want to hear from you as well. Our opinions are not the only ones that matter. We just happen to be the ones that are filming ourselves when we talk about it. So let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with our points? Disagree? Are there things that we talked about that or didn't talk about that you liked or that you disliked that you want to make sure that we know about or hear our opinions on? We want to hear from you in the comments down below, any and every bit of those things.
Yeah.
And then, before we get on to the full review itself, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you spending your time. Hopefully you're enjoying all the things that we're doing here on our Geek for All family of channels, because we have other channels as well, links down in the description box below for Video Games for All.
And Geek.
We're Geek for All.
Gluten-free for all.
I knew you'd get there.
I was like, I'm going to do it. It's going to be great.
Look, I don't tell her before I do these things, so it's just like, perform! You know, like, I get it. I fully get it. I'm sorry for springing these things on you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
But anyway, no matter which channel you're on, this one or either of those two, please don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so that you will get notifications whenever any of our videos come out, including...
It wouldn't be a video of ours if I didn't look like a fool at one point in the video.
First of all, I think you underestimate the number of times that I look like a fool in our videos.
Okay.
Anyway, please make sure to, if you subscribe and ring the bell, I was trying to get through this quickly, I'm so sorry. If you subscribe and ring the bell, you will get notifications for whenever any of our videos come out or whenever we go live, which is every Monday and Friday, right here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On Mondays, we play MTG Arena, so if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, we would love to have you. Speaking of me screwing up and looking like a fool, you're more than welcome to come join us. It's going to be great, don't you worry. And then, so the day that this video comes out will actually be our first day, not counting our early access stream where we did it for 8 hours. It'll be our first day in general release playing Phyrexia All Will Be One on Arena, so we'd love to have you. And then this Friday, we will be continuing our playthrough of God of War 2. So we encourage you to join us for that as well. Like I said, 8 p.m. Eastern, either Monday and or Friday. And yeah, we appreciate that. Any and all support that you're willing to give, it really helps us out a lot. And then last but not least, likes and shares go a very long way. That's it. We're done. On to the full review itself. Sorry for the delay. At the beginning of this story, the first paragraph, maybe it's me, and we would love to hear your opinions, as always. The first paragraph of this story is such a conglomeration of $5 words. And I know, I just used conglomeration. Sorry. But seriously, like, it's such a mass of $5 words that if you know what they mean, great. But it's also heavy with metaphor. And if you don't know what they mean, you've got to. If you want the full context, you should go look them up. To be fair, that's how you expand your vocabulary, right? So I'm not asking for it to be dumbed down in any way. It's just, as the first paragraph of a story, that's a lot. It's a lot to have two pieces of metaphor shoved in with very long sentences that have like breaks in the middle of them to explain what a certain term is in terms of Phyrexia, right? Because you can't look up the definition of what the etchings are or whatever, right? So it has to be explained to you in the story, but then it's also got other like dictionary words in there that you've got to go look up to be able to understand what all those words mean. Now, to be fair, if you are a person that just knows those words, you're more than welcome. Like, oh, I understood everything that, I don't know what you're talking about. You're welcome to leave that in the comments. I'm just telling you, as a person who is rather privileged in my education, I was a little lost in that beginning part, and so I would not blame anybody for also being lost in that beginning part. And I felt like it was a lot, personally. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, so you just flat agree.
Yep.
Okay. It was a lot. It really was. And it was like, okay, maybe we should sit here and try to figure this out. And it like worried the crap out of me because I was like, oh, is that just going to be this whole story?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the first paragraph. How would I not assume that?
Bad start. Of,
yeah.
Okay. Like the rest of it was fine.
Yes.
But that part like had to be that way for whatever reason,
yeah.
And I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. Like I said, it was at least two pieces of like heavy metaphor, and then like just a lot of like words and phrases, as well as Phyrexian information that like even the story felt it needed to describe what it was. So it was a lot. That was a really tough way to start this story because, again, we both think it's a story that's worth reading. It's just that, like I said, that is a big, big barrier to step through because I was very worried. I was like, oh, is this what I'm in store for here? Because that's going to be rough. That's a problem. So anyway, the story is about Tezzeret. So Tezzeret starts this story by planeswalking in near the Fair Basilica, or at the Fair Basilica, with Rona, or the charred endoskeleton of Rona, in his arms. That gets taken away to Jin-Gitaxias' area, and he gets to go and see Elish Norn, where he's having problems. The art for this story, like the thumbnail art for this story, has him with his head in his hand. Now, I assumed that was because, when I first looked at it, I assumed it was because, like, he's subservient to her, and he's trying to, like, her being Elish Norn, I guess. Did I specify that it's him, Tezzeret, with Elish Norn? Sorry.
I think you did.
Yeah, okay. But I think it's supposed to signify that, like, or I thought it was that he's, like, being subservient to her, and he doesn't love that because he's, like, a pretty prideful guy, and so, he's doing it because he has to, but also, like, I'm not going to look at you because either you're going to make me so angry, or you're going to get angry at me for daring to look upon you, or something like that. But really what it is he's in massive agony, because he keeps traveling by way of the planar bridge, which he can't be,
he has, like, radiation poisoning from it or something.
Well, it's burning away his flesh, right?
Yeah.
So, and eating away at him from the inside out, and he needs that dark steel body. He knows this. And so he again asks Elish Norn, like, hey, by the way, and also kind of says, well, Rona is one of Shieldred's people. And Elish Norn's like, oh, well, Shieldred's been working against me. And Tezzeret's like, oh, good. I can, like, disguise this situation under Shieldred's treachery. And so he does.
Right.
And he's able to get away with it. And so we're again reminded, right, because we knew this already, we read it in a prior story, that Shieldred is trying to amass, or I guess continue to work against Elish Norn along with Urabrask and things like that. So this is just further solidifying that. But yeah, so now Tezzeret gets his dark steel body, or at least asks for it, and ends up in Jin Gitaxias's area, where Jin Gitaxias can work on him and give him what he wants.
Yeah.
By, it was actually a little brutal, I thought, melting down his metal arm.
Yeah.
I thought that was a big deal. I read that and I was like, oh shit, like that's like everything that Tezzeret is in like all the arts and stuff. And the story even says like the one thing that made him unique and special and powerful is just being melted off of his body. And then is going to be injected into his new body, but still like,
right.
That's a lot for him.
Yep.
So I was quite surprised. But then your favorite, you know, the body horror of having his head and spine just removed from the rest of his body.
Ah.
And then placed
in there.
Yeah, and then placed into this new dark steel body, and it looks like along his spine or in his back or whatever is where and in his neck is where the Ethereum that was his arm is injected into the new Darksteel body. Now, for folks who are unaware, all of the Darksteel cards, for example, in Magic, are of one style because they are all indestructible. Darksteel is indestructible.
They're all of one.
Yes.
Because all will be one.
Thank you, Amy.
I liked that.
I am proud of you. I really am. So yes, so Darksteel is indestructible. Tezzeret now has an indestructible body. Now, from the sounds of it sounds like he's still got his head. So his head is not indestructible.
No.
And, as we learn from Nashi sneaking up on him, he does have that little bit of an oopsie button right in the back in his spine area, where if he gets stabbed there, he's like, I can't focus, very worried, can't planeswalk. Like, it's like, you know, that's how you short him out, right? Is you push that button right in the back with a knife or something. And he has it on his neck as well, so that later on, by the way, like very, very later on, he gets a suit of armor and reinforces those particular areas so that he can be better protected.
That used to be a big thing when we were kids, and I don't see it as much anymore.
What's that?
Like devices of some kind, where when you're having issues with it, there's like a spot, it's like a button, but it's ever so slightly recessed.
Oh, where you have to like hit it with a paperclip.
You have to take like a pin or a pen that's like got a really long tip and like hit the button with that.
Sure.
Yeah, yep. I don't really see that anymore.
No.
That was a big thing at one point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess Tezzeret has one of those now.
I have been of the impression all throughout these stories, especially with all these planeswalkers that we kind of know and love especially, being completed, I've been of the impression that they are going to be saved when we go back to... Nope, none of those. Eldraine, Jesus Christ. Okay. I was like, Ixalan, Ikoria, none of the above. Eldraine, it's the other one that starts with a vowel. When we go back to Eldraine, they're going to use the Cauldron of Eternity. That's my guess. It just makes sense as to why we're going back to Eldraine so quickly. But Tezzeret described the process of Tamiyo becoming a Phyrexian. And I wrote it down because I don't know how the Cauldron is going to help with this. Cut open and flayed like an overripe fruit. Her organs removed and replaced with glands that swam in oily ichor, an acid liver, bones of black metal. I don't really know that dipping yourself in the liquids of a cauldron are going to be able to like return your bones and organs to where they once were, where they're gone now and replaced with other ones. So I'm going to be very interested to hear how this works out, because
The fairy's time turner or whatever.
nice. That's the next side story that we're going to read is about Teferi. So yeah, I don't know. Like that seemed very worrisome to me, because I was like, oh, is that what she went through? How does she get out of that? She's missing her organs and bones. Like
Clearly she doesn't need them.
maybe it is what you've been saying all along, and it really is salvation that's going to do it.
Yeah.
You've been saying that all along, so maybe I'm just wrong. I would hate to think
Maybe
that
it's going to have to be both of them.
Maybe.
Or, maybe in the end that's what saves the other planes, but it doesn't bring people who have been changed back. That's
Yeah,
the thing too.
I know. I just feel like you can't. I would be very surprised if you lost 7 planeswalkers in these 2 sets, and like.
Yeah, but I mean, you said the reason why. I mean, we know these are the planeswalkers that they cannot correctly characterize.
Yes.
And so, in
Yeah.
2 sets from now, they're going to bring them back.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean,
do.
it very well could be that they're not going to bring them back, but what they are going to be able to do is save the multiverse from the Phyrexians.
Well, and that's kind of the discussion that was had in the story, in the last story that we read and reviewed, was the 5th and final, where Jace was like, look, these other planes could become destroyed, but we'll save the multiverse. Right? So it's the same general idea and discussion. Like I said, I would be very surprised. Now, if some of them can't be saved, like if that process only happened to Tamiyo, right, and all the others were turned by oil, I mean, we know what happened to Jace, for example, and Vraska, and Nahiri, to a degree, right? That unless it was after the fact that once they're kind of brought into the fold, then they're cut open, organs removed and replaced with whatever, but it's after they've been completed or turned through the oil. If the process only happened to Tamiyo, then maybe it is that Tamiyo is unsalvageable. Right? Again, I would be shocked if it was all 7 of them, is my main point, right? That's 7 planeswalkers gone. I can't see that being something that they're going to go with. I imagine that there will be some form of saving, and I would not be surprised if that meant that some of them did not get saved. But I still think some of them will.
I hope you're right.
I do too. And it's all predictions. You are more than welcome, and in fact I would love to hear your predictions in the comments down below. Maybe you have a thought that we have not thought of yet, and I would love to hear that as well. Like, well, Joe, listen, it could be X, Y, and Z, because Jin Gitaxias is not really working with Elishnorn, and maybe they make a deal with him, and he puts their organs back in, or whatever. Like, who knows, right? So, ignore that noise, and I will do the same, if you can hear that in the background. Because sometimes we don't know full timelines of situations like this, I felt like, at the beginning of the story, when Tezzeret's talking to Elishnorn and saying, hey, I just came back from Dominaria, here's what's going on in Dominaria, all the planeswalkers are there, amassing their power, or gathering together, or whatever, and he warns her, and she says, she's like asking him questions about it, or whatever, and he says, she says, we'll be fine, like, if they're coming here, we'll be okay. I felt like that was before the planeswalkers had gotten there. Whereas by the end of this story, he's in a place where already the Phyrexians have started coming, which is very shortly after he wakes up in Jin Gitaxias' place, but we don't know how long he was unconscious between being with Elishnorn and being with Jin Gitaxias, so it's definitely possible that could be a thing. That's so distracting. Sorry, everybody.
It sounds like they're buzzsawing something.
You would think that filming at 10:15 at night would mean that people would not be using vacuums in the background. It's got to be a vacuum. But anyway. Okay, I think it's done. Sorry. I'm just trying to focus on what I'm saying. I thought it was like he came over and was like, be careful, the planeswalkers are coming. And Elish Norn was like, we'll be fine. Now, either that means that the traps are already in place surrounding the plane or preventing people from coming in like that, or that is Elish Norn's cue to set up those traps. But that's kind of what I thought, because sometimes you don't have perfect information in terms of timelines.
Yeah,
because
I mean, her whole point was, I know everything, you know.
Yeah, I guess. Who knows? Like, I really am not so sure.
The redcoats are coming. The redcoats are coming.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Elish Norn looks like, right?
Right. Like, muscular, veiny thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of looks like a dress, almost, right? The, like, pieces coming off of her kind of look like a dress and stuff. Okay. And then we talked about Shieldred, and I mentioned Urabrask. So we knew already before this story that Urabrask and Shieldred are working against Elish Norn. And Elish Norn knows this now as well. What she doesn't know, seemingly, and what Tezzeret finds out, solo, is that Jin Gitaxias is also willing to keep some information from her, or close to his chest, you know? Which is new news. Although, to be fair, it just kind of seems like that's the MO of all of them, right? Is that like, oh yeah, we'll definitely bow down to you, Elish Norn. Sure, you're the mother of machines. We're not doing anything over here. Don't look over here, you know, whatever. And, I wrote down that...
Stay distracted doing whatever you're doing, because nothing's going on here.
Exactly. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
But I thought it was interesting because it really means that Vorinclex is the only one that's not working against Elish Norn. Except, at the end of the last story, Elish Norn has all of the planeswalkers who have been completed come and join her. Right? And who does she have? She doesn't have Vraska, because that was relatively new, and it was in Shieldred's locale. So maybe Shieldred has Vraska. It didn't have Luca, because Luca was with Vorinclex, and it didn't have a Johnny, but that's because Johnny and Tybalt, I guess, had just finished fighting in that outer area, so they were not necessarily conscious or alive anymore. But everybody else was there. Jace, Nahiri, Nissa, etc.
Yeah.
Now, Luca not being there seemed a little odd to me, especially if Nissa was. Because the last time we saw Luca in these stories, he was fully completed and a Phyrexian, and Nissa was not even a little bit completed yet. Had not seemingly even started being so. So if that's the case, why was Luca not there? Because Nahiri was, and she had just turned. Obviously Jace was, but he was right there, so a little bit of a different story. And Tamiyo was there, but Tamiyo had been there a while. It could be that because Luca, we last saw him with Vorinclex and Glissa, it may be that Luca is a secret from Elish Norn. And that Vorinclex is kind of keeping Luca with him and Glissa and keeping it a secret. Again, I have nothing to back it up except, like I said, at the end of that story, Luca was not there.
Yeah.
And we haven't really heard about Vorinclex at all outside of Luca's story, where he was completed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and said, hey, by the way, Vorinclex is also working against Elish Norn. It will likely be how the people in March of the Machines will come to be able to take her unawares and kill her or trap her or whatever.
Whatever they're going to do.
Exactly. But anyway, that, like I said, that could be a hint as to what is to come. We shall see. So then we have some quotes that I know you definitely wanted to talk about from this story. Because like I said, the beginning of the story is a little bit slower, in my opinion, and then it really gets interesting as the story goes on, kind of with Tezzeret planeswalking to all these different places and doing all these things, and we get to see like little like cameo appearances or Easter eggs or whatever of these other planes. So he goes to Tidehollow on Alara. Tidehollow, whose claws of rags and misery drag dreams to ash.
I just Tezzeret for the longest time has just been that asshole.
Fair.
This story very much made him, you know, it did the same thing that, like, they did with Soren's character.
Yes.
Because Soren was that asshole.
Yeah.
And then they were like, but he's sad in this one, guys, because Grampy's getting married. And he doesn't like her. So, you know.
That is a perfect distillation of that story. My God, so well done.
So
that's hilarious.
But this very much gave me like a Christmas Carol vibes.
Okay.
You know.
Oh, right. Okay. Like, you boy, what day is it? Yeah, and he does have like the kid living on the street kind of a thing going on.
Yeah.
At one point, sure.
Everybody's a street urchin, and then like, you know, he's Scrooge or whatever his
Yeah,
name.
he remembers his dad and his mom, and he has this sad backstory so that you can understand why he is the way that he is. But also, he like murders a bunch of people with wanton abandon, and it's like, oh, okay.
Just like crushes them by going like this or whatever.
Yep, in between their bikes, because they get stuck to their bikes and he just kills them all. And it's like, wow, you're complicated, huh?
Super fucked.
So yeah. All right, so did you want to talk about that quote at all, or no?
Yeah, I think I just did.
Fair enough. So then we, like I was alluding to, we meet this kid, Estel. We met a bunch of street urchin kids, right? Kids who live on the street and steal or whatever and mug people for money and items and etc. And there's a group of them, and Tezzeret kind of like challenges one of them with his knife and like animates it and, you know, uses it against him. And kind of everybody runs away. But because there are bigger kids in the front and smaller kids in the back, some of the smaller kids in the back get like knocked down and trampled over. And so there's one little kid left over when all the other kids run away. And Tezzeret is there with this kid, Estel. And so we meet Estel. And Tezzeret, this is when the Phyrexians start coming in, Tezzeret actually gives, or tries to give, Bant on Alara a warning of the Phyrexians coming. And saying to them, hey, by the way, you have angels. That's how they were dealt with in the past. Use your angels. You can actually stop them if you want to. So do that.
The redcoats are coming.
Well, exactly. And so the kid gets to run to get there. And it's kind of a cute moment where Tezzeret like actually cares about this kid. And yet at the same time, right, the kid's like stops and turns around and is like, thank you. And he's like, oh, wasted words. It's like, okay, guys, child, like, let's chill.
Seriously, it's a Christmas Carol, except without Christmas.
Yeah, there's Tiny Tim. They're like, please, Mr. Scrooge. And he's like, get out of here. Like, okay, Mr. Scrooge. My dead Bob Cratchit. Anyway. I have such a great English accent, everybody. Then, just for fun, I'm relatively certain all of these planes are new planes that were mentioned. If they're not, let us know in the comments down below. But there were new planes mentioned. Again, no information about them really whatsoever. And so it's not like, oh my god, I can't wait to find out about these. If they never come up again, fine. Maybe they let Reinhardt Suarez just run wild and make up random names of places. But when Tezzeret is planeswalking around, he basically says that Aranzur, Ilke, and Obsidius have already fallen to the Phyrexians, and that Mirinkar and Cabralin have not yet fallen. They will put up a good fight, but will soon fall as well to Phyrexia. So like I said, that may very well have just been like, hey, here's some names. But I guess you never say never. We could at some point get to these planes someday, so be aware that to my knowledge, this is the first time any of them are mentioned, and it's always kind of fun to like make note of all the random planes that they create for one-off lines like this. So keep it in the back of your minds if you're interested.
Hey, I mean, they might be part of the Phyrexian army that fights in the next set.
It's true. I mean, Obsidius sounds like a rock and or metal type location, right? Mm-hmm. Obsidian. So if that's the case, yes.
It's like a Kozilek's thing, right?
The like headpiece or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's interesting because it does make it so that if years in the future, if this is the end of the Phyrexians, it could make it so that years in the future there are Phyrexians still left on these planes, because since Tezzeret is the only one that knows that they fell, that, to the Phyrexians like that if nobody happens to go there with the Realmbreaker World Tree to check on those planes, maybe it is in fact the case that they will stay that way, grow as a new Phyrexia, Phyrexia 3.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Phyrexia 3, right?
No.
Stop that. And it will grow, and then eventually it'll be like, oh, we go to this random plane. What's here? Well, Phyrexians again. God damn it. So, again.
This crap.
Definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible that when they do the salvation-y cauldron, business.
Disco.
That, everything just magically gets fixed in every location possible.
There you go. Magic. Yeah. Maybe. Doubtful, but maybe. The next quote that you wanted to talk about. A false jewel.
Oh, okay. I saw those two words together and I was like, falafel?
Yes.
I like falafel.
A falafel. A false jewel. A curse masked as treasure. No. True power was not in either of these. In amassing armies or gathering weapons. It was in surviving. In thriving. In outliving all those who had ever come after him.
Yeah, it's ironic and sad because this line is the truest line in the entire story. And then what follows it is just a lot of murder. So, cleaning up the murder.
I was going to say, I think it was right after. He had just crushed them and then was talking about spinning it around and he saw the reflection in it and that's the jewel.
So, his interpretation of this line is very wrong. Yet, this line is very right. So, I mean, I think I could probably talk about this line and then his interpretation of it being wrong forever. But there's kind of no point in that, right? I mean, I think we can tell that he's a severely damaged person. And it's really unfortunate. He had a lot of things contributing to that, for sure. And I think he's trying desperately to claw his way back from that with the littlest piece possible in every second, right? So it's it's like 5 mini steps forward and then 1 step back. And then 5 mini steps forward and then 3 steps back. And then the murder's 10 steps back, so then he's gotta do it again, And it's disheartening. Which is, it makes you understand why he says that, hope is folly or whatever he said earlier in the story, where he was only fools have hope. And it's yeah, I mean, I could understand why you'd feel that way. Because 10 step backs with the murder, dude.
He did kill
and those
a lot
are some
of
big
Izumi.
steps, not the tiny steps forward you were taking. Those are some big steps back.
Right, because it's not, hey, my life is threatened and I don't want to, but I'm going to protect myself. It's he could have planeswalked away at any time and then come back somewhere else. And instead, he was just nah. Crush you all against your motorcycles. Hope you enjoyed it. Merry Christmas. Kill you.
Yeah, I mean, he also has this perspective that's so different from everyone else's. He sees how finite everything is in this moment, right? Like, Elish Norn is fucking coming, right? So killing some bikers is like the least of his worries, right? Like, and he probably thinks he saved them from a terrible fate, realistically, right? Like, their deaths were somewhat quick when he killed them, and otherwise they could have been like surgical bayed all up on there for who knows how long.
Sure.
You know, in tons of pain like he was when he like walked up to Elish Norn and was all like, you know, don't break your promise to me, please, you know. That kind of thing.
You said surgical bait, and all I thought of was them sprinkling Phyrexian oil just like this.
Yes. Do it.
At the surgical bay.
Someone make that meme, please.
You're going to get surgical bait. Anyway, sorry, it's all...
Yes. Someone please make that meme.
And then share it with us on our socials. Links down in the description box below. That's hilarious. Oh my god. So, and speaking of that moment, then again, he ends that moment where it in the middle of it there was a bunch of murder. He ends that moment with a possible positive. He looked down where Nashi lay, crouched down, and cradled the boy's head in his hand. Nashi wrapped his fingers around Tezzeret's wrist, the half-congealed blood on his palms leaving a residue, black and viscous, upon Tezzeret's dark steel skin. Your mother still lives. Alive, Nashi gasped, the smallest sliver of a smile flashing across his face. Tezzeret nodded. She will come for you soon enough. He leaned in closer. And when she does, you will wish I had killed her. Gently, he placed Nashi's head onto the ground, stood up, and walked away.
Yeah. Can we talk about how fucked up he is when he talks to kids? You don't say that shit. But again, his perspective is so different from everyone else's. He can see how Elish Norn's fingers are in everything, and she has infinite fingers, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, we're doomed. You know, like, I'm going to do what I can to prevent us from being doomed, but we're fucking doomed. And, you know, what you say and how you say it to kids is only important if that kid is going to keep living.
Yeah, and I mean, again, right, he had two moments here, right? He spoke to... Damn it, I just put the page away, too. Estel. He spoke to Estel after having chased off all the other kids who were trying to mug him, basically.
Kids love him.
So he spoke to Estel, and he was just like, go do this, go do that, go do this. And Estel's like, okay. And Tezzeret's like, do you understand me? And Estel's like, I mean, I think so.
I definitely do. Okay, bye.
He's like, just take this and go find this person, give this to him, right? Like, all this. And the kid's like, all right, but what about... And he's like, no. Stop asking questions. Do as I say. I'm trying to keep you alive here, kid. Go. Right? And the kid leaves and he's like, thank you. And he's like, shut up. Useless words or whatever. Like, and then, yes, to Nashi, that moment, right after he murdered Nashi's friends in front of him, basically.
Brutally.
Yeah. Like, very gruesomely.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And not just his friends. I mean, they were his gang members.
Yeah. So arguably family, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. Sure.
That's, you know, a deeper relationship.
Right. Now, we know he has a family, right, because of his mother, right? For those who are unaware, I suppose. Nashi is a Nezumi child that is seemingly an adopted child of Tamio's. Tamio and her spouse, I believe. And Tamio has a number of children. And she and her children, Tamio, current Tamio, working with the Phyrexians, seems to want to be together with them again soon. And as Tezzeret said, that's going to be a problem for those children.
Yeah.
Because if Tamio wants to bring them into the fold, right, that ain't what those kids want. Like,
no.
they want their mommy back, but they don't want her back like that.
And it's not what they need.
No. That's not what anyone needs.
No.
Nobody needs that.
No. So, like, I mean, there's arguably, like, a kernel of goodness to him having told Nashi that, right? Because it's a warning.
Yes. But
like,
also...
if you see your mother, shit's gonna go down.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready.
But also dissuading his concerns, right? Because Nashi's whole point was, like, where is she? Is she alive?
Right.
And Tezzeret's like, yeah, she's alive. And Nashi's like, oh, thank God. And he's like, no. You don't get it. She's alive, but like you said...
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, you don't ever want to see her again. Like, sure, she's alive, congratulations, you can be happy about that. But also, problems.
Yeah.
And so, the story ends with Tezzeret finding his old headquarters for the Infinite Consortium, which he had forgotten about thanks to Jace a long time ago. Now he is remembering it again, he is there, and he basically says, like, what we've been talking about a lot with Tezzeret, which is that when he was working for Bolus, now when he's working for Elish Norn and the Phyrexians, or worked for them, this man is biding his time until the people that have control over him are weak enough, and he can come in and take his rightful place, in his eyes, as the ruler of the multiverse.
Right.
That's literally all he wants.
Absurd.
It's all he's ever wanted, but he has to wait for all of these more powerful people, or people that have amassed more power, to be done with their nonsense.
Right.
And then he can come in and do whatever he's going to do to get himself where he wants to be.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? Let them kill each other. And then when they're all dead, I'll swoop in and steal the throne.
Right. The example that I always give is from X-Men comics, for folks who are aware of who Mr. Sinister is. Tezzeret is 1,000,000% Mr. Sinister. He's the one who works for Apocalypse and is like, oh yes, Master Apocalypse. Anything you say, Master Apocalypse. And then when the X-Men or the mutants are breaking down Apocalypse's door, Mr. Sinister's like, oh, I left the roast on, leaves out the back door, right.
Yeah.
Goes into his lab, gets his things, and then runs off. Right? And Tezzeret has just done the same thing. He's like, yeah, Elish Norn, I'll definitely help you. I just need that dark steel body you promised me. So glad I could help. Oh, I got my dark steel body? Guess I'm gonna have to go. See ya bye. And eventually is able to break out of Gene Gataxias' hold, gets away, and is now like, I'm gonna hole up here.
Because he's a slippery motherfucker with or without the Phyrexian oil.
Correct. So you Planeswalkers, you fight it out with the Phyrexians. Whoever is left, you're gonna be weak. And then I can show up fresh-faced and do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
And that's what he says. He's like, whoever is left will be exhausted, will be weakened, and I will be able to step in and do whatever I want. So, to me, what that means is that for March of the Machines, he will not be present. Maybe in March of the Machines Aftermath, which I believe is what that set is called, the epilogue set, if that set has stories, which I'm not confident it does, because we don't really know much about that set. It's like one of those smaller sets, like the Innistrad Remastered or whatever, that it's like a random specialty set. Or he shows up later than that, even, whether it's in Eldraine or somewhere else down the line. But I imagine we won't see him for a while as he rests, amasses power, whatever. All of the above.
Right.
But that's it for him for a while. Now, again, to be fair, I said that about Teferi, and the next story we're going to read is Teferi, so I wouldn't be surprised, necessarily, but I imagine, based on the way that this was written, that it's going to be a bit before we see Tezzeret again.
Okay.
Just how I feel. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And again, if you disagree, let us know. Comments down below. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have to agree with that, because I feel like if they're going to, like, slightly redeem him in this story a little bit, and, like, make you root for him despite, like, him being a terrible murderer at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's because they're going to tell you all of what's going on with him, which they did. The story was about literally nothing else.
Yep.
You know, and, you know, put a pin in it.
Yeah. Also, by the way, for folks who may not be aware of Mr. Sinister and the X-Men and Apocalypse and all that, you could also use the example of Starscream and Megatron and the Decepticons and etc., where when Megatron is injured or dead or whatever, that Starscream gets to step in and be like, yes, I am the leader now. And then Megatron comes back and Starscream's like, oh, sorry, I would never have taken this role from you, Master. But same general idea. So if that helps you to understand who it seems like Mr. Sinister / Tezzeret is being like. But anyway. Yeah, that's the end of this particular story. Like I said, we got one more to go. That will hopefully be on Thursday. If you were on our stream on Friday, you already know the good news. But I encourage you to go check out the VOD of God of War over on our video games channel if you want to hear our fun personal announcement that we were able to make. So I encourage you to go check that out, and thank you in advance if you choose to do so. But like I said, we will try to get the video out for Thursday. No promises. We've got a little bit of stuff going on in our lives, so we hope that you will forgive us. And hopefully, like I said, you will hang out with us then this Friday on stream as well, and or tonight, because again, this video comes out on Monday, so we will be live at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight and Friday night. We would love to have you. But I think it's interesting. I think being able to kind of, because we tried to do this with all the Planeswalkers at the end of the last story as well, just to say like, okay, Elish Norn has all of these Planeswalkers, they're in this area, but Luca's with Vorinclex and blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, Tezzeret's going to be gone for a little while, let's be aware of that. And being able to look at like, okay, they're trying to redeem him, but also the murder, though, a little bit of a problem. And like being able to look at those characters and try to parse out like whether we want to like them or whether we want to hate them or whether we want to be like, hey, look, you just need a PR guy. Like, maybe let's talk about not killing people, even if they're threatening you. Like, you're a lot more powerful than them. Your body is indestructible. Maybe let's just let it be that for now on. Anyway, I think that's a really good way for all of you to join us as we show off our...
Hashtag Vorthos Pride.
That's absolutely right. We look forward to seeing you for the last one whenever it is. And again, that's not as a ploy to try to get you to do it again. We got some stuff going on. But please don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell on any of our channels, but this one especially, so that you will find out exactly when that video comes out if it is not on its typical release date on Thursday. Hopefully it will be, but again, we can't really make any promises right now. We've got plenty
We're trying,
of...
guys.
Yes. And we really appreciate your patience. I'm sure that no one has ever, when we've missed a video, come and been like, where the hell was the video though? So we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's honestly more me being frustrated at the fact that like, how long ago did these stories come out and we're still releasing the reviews? But again, that's not my fault. That's the story team's fault of deciding that you just want to shove them all into to 5 days, 10 stories. It's real stupid. So, but again, like Amy said, thank you for your patience and your understanding. We appreciate it because we want to get these stories out. It's important to us, or we want to get these reviews out, I guess. It's important to us that we join in on the discussion with all of you as well. We want to hear what you have to say, and we hope that you're enjoying what we're doing here. We would love to hear any and all thoughts that you have, as always, in the comments down below. Like we say, keep the conversation going. Super important. And for now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.